everyone, this is Helana with Glass Factory, and I'm here with Danny of Just Rocs. Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's been really nice to see you again. How are things in New York?
Things are good. It's a little rainy today. But yeah, things have been great. Like the city's back and it's hustling and bustling, so it feels good.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, last time we chatted, it was just still peak quarantine. How much has New York changed since then?
Oh, a lot. I think people just got into a rhythm and now know how to live with this. So it's been a
Hmm.
lot better.
Last time we chatted, we were talking about your latest EP release, This Is Our Life, and it was peak quarantine. You've chatted about your love for New York. What is it like living there now with over a year of quarantine being a thing and all?
New York is like at a new normal. The city really found like its own rhythm and pace, and now there's just kind of this like alternative version of New York for the time being until things get back to normal.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I bet that's a really interesting mix of everything.
Yeah, it's been like it's just much lighter, the city. Like there's a lot less people.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a like New York light right now. Is kind of how I think of it.
Hmm. New York light. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's just like less people, so it's way less crowded.
Yeah, it's way less crowded. So yeah. How is it the same New York then? Well, it's not, but like that's interesting. Just
Well,
like
there's
I've
still like that. Yeah, there's still like the energy of it, and still like the hustle. It's just like on a different kind of scale now, you know.
that's cool. That the energy is at least still there because that's something that like I felt like would be lost in the cities, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some refreshing parts about it as well.
Hmm.
Like sometimes it can just be so chaotic and so overwhelming that like one of the small silver linings is just not being mobbed by bodies like on the subway at certain times. I mean, it's still got that pace and that intensity, but it's just a little bit less.
Yeah, so that just brings me to that acoustic performance that you did at the beginning of the lockdown.
Mhm.
What were some of your thoughts when you were that were going through your head when you were doing that performance in an empty
It
New
was
York
kind of
Times Square?
yeah, it was kind of creepy to be honest. And also there was like this one like I was the only one in Times Square, me and the guy filming, and then there was like this one guy who was like 5 feet ahead of me and off to my right. And he was homeless and
Mm.
definitely like uh in need of help. And he was just like, and he looked like pretty menacing though, and he was just like standing there and just like staring at me the whole time. And me and the cameraman were like, all right, we got one take because we just didn't in New York, like you never know what's gonna happen. And he was just
Right.
like this, like looking at me like the whole time. And it was like very intimidating just getting mean mugged like that. Cause I was like, is this guy gonna come over to me? I don't know. But yeah, it was an intense experience. It was. And then I walked home
Mm.
from Times Square with the guitar, like a good 45-minute walk. And it was just like a crazy experience walking through a empty, pitch black NYC. The only other time I felt that was like after Hurricane Sandy, pretty much when like the city power was out. And it was equally creepy in a different way.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting thought to just compare that to a hurricane because yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's like a
very,
different kind
very
of
weird, very eerie, very
for sure.
post-apocalyptic, I bet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah, wow, that's crazy. So you're about to release A Real Good Person in a Real Bad Place on September 24th. I wanted to take a moment and say that I've really enjoyed listening to this album. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is this
Thank you.
your debut album?
Yes, it is my first album. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, because you have about what is it, three or four EPs?
Three EPs. Yeah. Three
Three
EP
EPs?
trilogy.
Yeah, that's cool. How long have you been writing A Real Good Person in a Real Bad Place?
In many ways, I feel like I've been writing it all my life, to be honest.
Mhm.
But I've been specifically writing it the last 3 years and then focusing on it very intensely the last year.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. How much has it changed in the last year of the process?
A lot. Like
A
there have
lot.
been many different versions of this album and many songs that I've just kind of scrapped, and many like just almost full-length albums that I've scrapped, to be honest. I've churned through a lot of music to get to the exact experience that I want to create for people.
Yeah, that I could tell. I could tell that it's really carefully curated, and there's even little references of each of different songs in each. Did that make sense? Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
for example, in the first track, you allude to Rats and Mice, and then Mickey Mouse Club or MMC, you talk a little bit more about it. So that was one of the things that I noticed.
Yeah, there's like definitely a lot of cross-referencing going on for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, the cross-referencing. I've only gotten to touch the surface of that though, which is really cool because it's like it's been about what 5 or 6 listens at this point, and I feel like I'm only touching the surface, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, there's a lot to dig into on many repeat listens. That's the whole intent. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely see that. I don't know, just like overall, it's just really relevant to the times we're living in. So it was interesting to hear that it just changed a lot over the last year, versus the last 2
Thanks.
years. So yeah, it's
Yeah, I
very,
feel like
very relatable.
yeah, I
At
feel
least.
like the world's changed a lot, the city's changed a lot, I've changed a lot.
Mhm.
Hopefully the music, yeah, reflects all that.
Yeah. Wow. So what's the first song you wrote and completed that actually went onto the album?
Man, it's crazy because the first song I wrote is different than the first song I completed.
Mm,
Uh, like I started writing Don't Hurt Me about 3 years ago, and but it ended up being one of the last ones I finished for the album. And then the first song that I wrote and finished was Tick, which is the intro to the album.
mhm. Yeah, I could tell that song, it's just um I don't want to misinterpret things, so feel free to correct me. But it just seems like that is the title track of the album because it just describes a little bit why you feel out of place in this world and so on. Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, Tick was written in like and mostly produced in an hour.
Mm,
And there's something pure about songs that get made like that, and
yeah.
they have a lot to teach myself, and it just kind of dictates like what the album should be and everything that's to come. So it was the perfect intro track.
Yeah, it really does give us a prelude into the whole album, which I don't think that there are really many that many first songs that are that hit that right on the nail.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, I want to set the tone for everything that's to come. And yeah, I don't think there's any way to misinterpret anything. Like the whole point for me with this album is that any interpretation is your interpretation as a listener.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting to think about too. Especially since there's just so many different ways you can interpret the album, I think. So, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about some of your thoughts about the whole concept of a real good person and a real bad place came into play?
Yeah, it when I was writing Tick, that first song on the album, I just kind of did the vocals as one long stream of conscious take uninterrupted.
Hmm.
And like pretty much that whole take is just that very first take of vocals. And sometimes I'll pick apart vocals for months and redo things 10, 20, 30, 100 times. And this one, I just kept everything I said as one like freestyle, and I didn't really tweak anything, and it just was what it was. And in that, I said, I'm a real good person in a real bad place. And it was like almost like a hypnotic chant of like what I was feeling at that time. And then
Hmm.
it became the kind of creative North Star for the rest of the LP.
Yeah, that's really cool. So it was just a yeah, like you said, a stream of consciousness, and then it just births that whole album, or did you have other concepts before that?
Yeah, it really, I had other songs and other concepts and things I was working on, but I kind of pivoted after that. I really
Hmm.
changed course and then just scrapped all that older stuff and then went in this whole new direction with everything. And
That's
there's just
cool.
something so, yeah, there's something so pure about just like whatever you say in the moment, that
Hmm.
you're not overthinking. And I give that an immense amount of respect to those sort of like spur of the moment sayings and things that you just subconsciously feel and built out.
As far as choosing the track list in the album, has it been difficult to narrow down the songs for this album?
Yeah, extremely difficult. I'm pretty neurotic overall as a person. And then when it comes to creative stuff, I'm like twice as neurotic. And then when it comes to making a track listing and curating the journey of the music exactly how I want it to be listened to, ultra neurotic. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was a journey.
Well, the efforts you've put in are definitely you definitely pulled it off. So I
Thank you
really
so much.
liked it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, so what was your favorite song to write on the album, and why?
Favorite song to write. I'm gonna say favorite means like really happy, positive experience because there are a lot of
Hmm.
songs that I enjoyed writing, but were very either dark or personal or hit this kind of bittersweet note that wasn't fun per se. But I would say why the second track on the album was like really
Hmm.
fun to write. You know, that one is just like pure adrenaline and pure escapist energy and just so operatic and over the top and just embodies so much of how I feel about music. So that was like really fun to write for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to that one. And I could see it performing really well live. So I'm looking forward to
I
hearing that
can't
one.
I can't wait to play that one live. I cannot wait.
What was the hardest track for you to write on the album?
The hardest track. Um, Man, that's a tough question because like hard meaning that I struggled with personally or hard meaning that took me a long time. But I'd say like one that I struggled with a lot was a song called Rabbit Hole on the
Hmm.
last song on the album. And just because like it's the song is very exposed and I'm
Hmm.
usually as a singer hiding behind a lot of distortion and instrumentation and production. And for me, that one, there was really nowhere to hide. It was like a very
Right.
wide open song, so that was tough to write.
Yeah, but even though it was tough to hide, like I feel like the distortion and the instrumentation of that song in particular just added to the story because what was the coolest part is that usually people try to conclude things at the end of their album, and you were almost just saying, hey, here's the next chapter, we're going to keep pushing forward, right? So
Oh yeah, totally. It's like the album is like a cliffhanger for sure.
mhm.
And then there's it's just the tip of the iceberg. Like there's so much more to come.
Right, yeah, and I could definitely get that sense, and it just makes me want to listen to that whole album again and then just re-listen to everything and break it down all over again. It's just been an interesting ride.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess we could go back to Rabbit Hole. um what was your reasoning for that electric guitar solo and like that conclusion basically?
Yeah, like I don't like I'm a rock artist, I guess if you're looking for one of the many lanes to put me in. But like there wasn't one guitar solo on my whole album. You know what I
Right.
mean? And there's so many obvious places for it where I could have just like ripped some solo, but like I have so many mixed feelings about guitar solos in general. And I feel like they need to serve a purpose that is larger than simply a guitar solo. Because so many times being in bands, you know, you get to a section of the song and you go, what do we do in this section? And you go, I don't know, guitar solo. You know, and it's like it becomes what's supposed to be the pinnacle of your song, like this most insane musical moment often just becomes the thing you're supposed to do at a certain section. And I really want to challenge that. And I want to provide a guitar solo in a way that like Prince would, where it would
Mm.
come kind of unexpected and it would be aggressive, but the song would be sad. Um, and yeah, that's like the genesis of that solo. And that was just like a couple takes too. But I wanted to also make it sound different and really experiment with like different delays and things like that, and just really provide a new twist on a guitar solo, but that was still like very not just twisting just to twist, you know,
Hmm.
twisting, but also making something like very accessible.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by just planting in guitar solos here and there, and they don't really sound as authentic as they used to. I've just watched older videos of rock stars, just about weeping because they're getting so into their music, and I don't really see that around in live performances very often. So
Yeah, I'm about the emotion of it. It's all emotional for me. Like I don't consider myself a good guitar player or a technical guitar player at all. I just use it as a way to emote and express myself the same way I do my voice and my music as a whole.
yeah, you definitely did that in this track. I feel like it was another voice that you got to use, which is really cool. How has writing Imaginary Friends impacted the little voices in your head, especially when isolation just makes them run rampant?
Yeah, that's like a really isolationist record. And for me, just like constantly escaping into the realm of what's going on in my head as a way of dealing with the craziness out there in the world and other personal circumstances. Like that song really is an anthem and an ode to that whole process, that whole kind of human experience.
Yeah, could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean it's a song that I feel like embodies a lot of what I stand for as an artist, where it kind of straddles many different emotions at once, which is something I'm always chasing. Like I think same thing with food. Like you don't want your food to be like one note. You know what I mean? Like it's the combination of different flavor profiles that makes something interesting and something that you that sticks out in your mind forever. So I'm constantly chasing that with music. And I think Imaginary Friends has a lot of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So would you say you just chased those voices and figure out what they said and what they meant?
Yeah, like what the meaning of this whole kind of escapist lifestyle that I've led for a lot of my life, like what it all means, and boiling that down into like an intense groove-based rock record.
Yeah. So by escapism and escapist lifestyle, could you tell me a little bit more about that and what that means for you?
Yeah, I think it boils down to like a desire to always like experience the other and always see things and try things and explore things, whether personally or creatively. And I just grew up like always consumed in some sort of creative endeavor that while I was working on it took me out of the realities that I was facing, whether they were good or bad. I was just present and in some new space. And that's something I'm always chasing now that I'm not a little kid anymore, like always kind of chasing that bubble of creativity that allows you to do whatever you want.
That's interesting. I really like your definition of escapism because whenever you think escapism, you almost get that negative connotation with, I don't know, like trying to escape reality, but in a negative way. And it's really cool because it's just, yeah, your definition just it's different than that. So yeah, thanks for breaking that down for us.
Yeah, of course. Like I don't view escapism as negative. Like I don't view it
Right.
as like, oh, I hate my life, I'm gonna drive away and never come back.
Mm-hmm.
I view it as like just moments where you are present and the things that do give you anxiety and that do hurt you are not in your mind. And if it's just for 5 minutes or 50 minutes, it's like a real gift. And it's something I'm always trying to create for myself and give to other people.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting perspective on anxiety and stuff, that it's a gift.
Oh
Is
no,
that
I
what
think
you
being able to being
to
able to
transform it?
to like not have those things in your head
Right.
is yeah, yeah. And to
Okay.
yeah, and to like just not to be present in whatever moment you're in is a
Right.
gift.
Okay. Yeah. Now I'm understanding. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, when people listen to the new album, what messages do you have for your audience, and how do you want that to be conveyed in the album?
Well, I think there's like already a lot out there that people know like where I'm coming from as an artist. But for me, like the messages that I always want to convey are just know that like every single word and lyric and everything I put all of myself into. And it's always a very raw expression of myself that's unfiltered by any person or company or anything. And that's always important to keep in mind for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You could definitely tell that in your music for sure.
Yeah.
It's
For better or for
definitely
worse.
what makes
Yeah.
you more unique. I think a lot of people just hold back, and you definitely like don't, at least in your music. So it's really cool.
I don't hold back in any part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. For better or for worse, again.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really inspirational.
Nice.
Yeah. So you're about to set off on your first headlining tour. How does it feel to be on taking the stages again, especially on your own headlining tour?
It's a weird feeling. I'm excited to get back out on there. I also like haven't left New York in like a year and a half,
Mhm.
more than for like just a couple days.
Hmm.
So it's a weird feeling. I guess we'll have to check in again once I actually get out there because I'm sure I'm gonna feel all sorts of ways about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been a year and a half since you've been on stage.
Yeah, I got home from tour March 1st, 2020.
Oh, dang. So right before lockdown.
Yeah, like
Wow. Yeah.
nice to be home for a couple of weeks before I go back out. And who
Mhm.
knew, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. A couple weeks, couple years later, still a couple weeks.
It's crazy.
Yeah. How has that impacted your creativity on this album?
It's forced me to double down on a lot of the things that made me me in the first place, like kind of an isolationist approach to making the music.
Hmm.
And that was all just like really enhanced dramatically.
Yeah, I bet. I know a lot of creatives tend to go toward that isolationist mindset. I mean, we could think of Edgar Allan Poe, for example, if you're a Poe fan.
Mhm.
I just go to what is that short story? There's a short story that talks about being an isolationist for the sake of your art and going mad instead. So I think that that's kind of,
I gotta
I
find
don't know.
that
I
because
feel like you're, go ahead.
I relate I relate to that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think your album does touch a little bit on that madness too, which is kind of cool. So it's interesting that you mentioned the isolationist aspect of the album as well and
Oh
creating.
yeah, madness is always a core ingredient for me in everything I do. Yeah, that's like the sugar in the baking recipe. It's in pretty much everything.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So what have you taken from 2020 and how are you using that and what you learned to conquer the next year and moving forward?
Well, a lot of people are like, man, I'll never take shows for granted again. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, like I never took shows for granted to begin with. Like I always
Mm,
had the profound sense of appreciation when I was on stage for every moment that I got to be on stage.
mm.
So I don't really have that because I always have that. But I've taken away an album from it. I had the time to make an album. So that was really special.
Congratulations on your new music.
Thank you.
And yeah, looking forward to seeing you take the stage here in California, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, very soon. So I'm excited. Thank you.